All right, good morning. Welcome to Saturday, October 15th. Good to see you once again. Today's reading, we Mark chapters 1 through 3. Now, we start a new book today. The book of Mark is a lot different than the book of Matthew. Remember, Matthew was written with the Jew in mind to connect Jesus to David and then back to Abraham. Mark is not written that way at all. Mark is to show Jesus as a servant. This is my favorite book to read. Mark has a great story. This is John Mark, who went on the missionary journey with Paul and Barnabas. Remember, related to Barnabas, quit halfway through. They tried to take him on the second missionary journey. Barnabas demanded it. Paul wouldn't have it. And so they separated. This is in the book of Acts. And Barnabas is never heard of again. However, later we find in 2 Timothy chapter 4, Paul calls John Mark a valuable servant and colleague. And so he's back in good graces with Paul, and he ends up writing the book of Mark. Now, one thing you'll notice as you go through Mark, remember, not written for the Jews. I mean, yeah, sure, a Jew can still read it. It actually explains some Jewish terms. Like, for instance, Mark chapter 7, 1 through 4. It says, defiled, as to say, with unwashed hands. And then, Mark chapter 7, verse 3, and all Jews except they wash there. It's speaking of them in the third person. And it's explaining what it means when it's talking about them. Now, one area that Mark is different is where Matthew was doctrine heavy. We could spend hours going through the chapters. I mean, yeah, we could in Mark as well, but that's not how Mark is written. Matthew is a gospel of doctrine, of teachings, of connections. Mark is the gospel of action. We see things happening quickly without a lot of interlude. A key word might be straightway. It just, things flow. And I mean, by the time you get to the first 10 verses in Mark, you're already past where, Matthew chapter 3 was. Mark has little to say about the Old Testament, little to say about the law. In the 16 chapters, there are 19 miracles. So, it's more action-packed, and it just moves a lot quicker. So that will affect our videos for the next few days because, it's not going to take me a long time explaining the doctrine of Mark. Mark explains itself. Chapter 2, we have the palsied man brought down, borne by 4. And, Jesus already messing with the scribes. Hey, sins be forgiven. I want you to notice that even the scribes said, who can forgive sins but God only? So they had a little bit of correct doctrine, just that they applied it incorrectly and had tried to justify themselves. Their problem is they didn't submit to the righteousness of God. And Jesus alluded to this in verse 17, they that are whole have no need for a physician. And of course, verse 22 there is talking about the new wine in old bottles. Again, because they can burst. Jesus is telling them that a new way is coming, but doesn't dwell on it. Chapter 3, Jesus heals the man with a withered hand. And then we get there towards the end, and the unpardonable sin is even more clear in Mark chapter 3. Look here. But he that shall, verse 29, but he that shall blaspheme against the Holy Ghost hath neither forgiveness, but is in danger of eternal damnation. Verse 30 explains exactly what it is. Because they said he hath an unclean spirit. That can't be done anymore. Jesus is not on earth. He's not performing miracles. People aren't standing around him telling him that he is possessed by Satan. Now, I said there's less teaching, but there are still some parables. And we'll start covering those tomorrow. All right. Hope you have a great day. We'll catch you later.